Hello, everybody. Pascal here from Neutrality Studies, and I would like to talk about an update on Iran because what we are hearing right now, and I think it is confirmed as of now, that Ayatollah Khamenei has died or was killed, was murdered in Iran, in Tehran, in a strike against apparently his residence, in which also several of his family members were killed. I did a live stream earlier today with Michael Rossi and the wonderful Chas Freeman. I recommend watching this very much because here we were discussing the general impact now that this war will have, and how this the whole perception of the United States is certainly going to change also in the region and globally. But back then, when we did this 3 hours ago, it wasn't clear yet whether Khamenei was actually killed. But by now, the Iranian state media has confirmed this. This is an extract from Press TV. If you try to access Press TV right now on the internet, you only get error messages. The Iranian internet is still very much down, but on Twitter they are putting out pieces of news information, and until the Iranians actually confirm some things themselves, I would recommend not to believe news as they come out. But since we now have the confirmation, it is clear that he's gone. Now, this is, of course, very significant. On the one hand, it's what a lot of people expected, how the United States would conduct this strike or this war. They would try to go for a decapitation strike, and Donald Trump is already on record as having said that diplomacy would be much easier now that Khamenei is gone. Um, I will discuss this in a moment a bit more, but just for now, the important thing here is that, of course, he was the man who had the most power in the Iranian state, although, of course, not the only power. It is Iran is, of course, a complex political entity with a complex structure with different power centers, which includes the Revolutionary Guards, which includes the normal military, which includes the different ministries, and gives power, of course, also to the elected leaders. There is, of course, a parliament. There is a government, the prime minister and the president, and then the different parts of the cabinet are still very much intact. So for now, what we see is that Mr. Saeed Abbas Arakchi apparently um, is still alive. So the foreign minister, it seems that the United States has been targeting the military and the clerical arm of the government. The Ayatollah Khomeini is, of course, the religious leader under whom then most state power came together, who had the power of appointing a lot of the positions of people who then lead significant parts of the state and the military. But again, he was not the only figure, and the United States seems to be betting on the Iranian government falling apart, and the structure of Iran as a political entity falling apart if he once he is gone. But I am pretty certain that they will learn now the hard way that this is not the case. So just as they thought, as the United States seems to be under the impression that if you take out Nicolas Maduro, you're going to change the Venezuelan government. That if you kill the leader of Iran, you thereby change the entire functioning of the state. This is highly questionable. Of course, we see at the moment also that Iran is still striking back at Israel and at the military bases in the region. These here are a couple of excerpts from the news that are circulating on Twitter. It is sometimes difficult to judge whether these attacks are actually from this war or whether they are from the 12th Day War back in June. There are also um, there are also videos circulating that depict that, or depict other strikes on targets that were not connected to the immediate strikes right now. But overall, I mean, the war is in full swing. Both sides are striking at each other. The fact that the United States was able to kill Khamenei, of course, also indicates that just as Israel is not able to prevent attacks on its soil, Iran is not able to prevent missiles and bomber strikes from reaching its shores, even the very center of power. Although Mr. Khamenei made it very clear that in recent days that he already had appointed his successors and was prepared for this to happen. I must say, I do believe the United States actually made makes quite a couple of mistakes here. One, of course, is believing that this will change everything. Secondly, they are hereby renewing the Iranian the leadership of the state, right? Just as with Hamas and with Hezbollah, younger leaders now came to the fore. This will do exactly that also in Iran. The next guard is now just is now just coming to power. So instead of these people going out and retiring from power, they are now being violently replaced. But as in any mature political system, the next level is just waiting to go to the top. And the Donald Trump, of course, is justifying all of this with his obsession about Iran, or his lies about Iran seeking a nuclear weapon. The whole irony of the case is that it was Ayatollah Khamenei who stood in the way of Iran building a bomb. It was Ayatollah Khamenei's fatwa against the nuclear weapons that actually is part of why Iran never really developed these nuclear capabilities, because they had or maybe still have the capacity to enrich uranium to the point where they needed it. But it was this religious leader that actually said these weapons are unholy and must not be produced. So by taking this man out of the political system, I'm pretty sure that Iran is now even one step closer to the bomb than before. If also ever there was need of proof that Iran, from its own perspective, in order for its defense, needs nuclear weapons, I mean, this all-out attack, the second one in less than a year, should be more than proof of that. I mean, not that the war in June, the 12-day war, was not already proof that Iran is under very grave threat, but now having the political leadership also decapitated will probably drive that point home. Whether the fact that the United States has not killed the president and Mr. Arakchi and so on, although I don't know if Mr. Arakchi is even um, in Iran at the moment. It is very possible, since he's the foreign minister, that he's currently abroad, maybe still in Geneva. But the fact that the rest of the cabinet, actually, the political, the civilian arm, not the religious arm and not the military arm, have not been attacked, might indicate that the United States is intending on continuing its diplomacy, its war diplomacy with Iran. Because the one thing that is probably clear is that it seems that the United States is not intent on actually putting boots on the ground in Iran. That seems completely out of the question. Ambassador Chas Freeman also said so. There's just simply not the capacity to do that. So what the United States is probably aiming for is this violent regime change, and then forcing Iran, I mean, destroying the military capacities of Iran. Donald Trump said so in his address yesterday. If you haven't seen that, you should watch it as well. It's 8 minutes. It's completely unhinged in my view, but he lays out his goals, of course, regime change being one, actually regime obliteration, regime destruction. I mean, he wants the Republic of Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran, as a political entity gone. But in order to get there, what he needs is, of course, some form of transition. In his mind, what he imagined in the video that he did yesterday was that he wants the Iranian people, once the bombing is over and once the United States says we're done with doing what we do, he wants the Iranian people to rise up and then take over the institutions and then basically do away with the Islamic Republic of Iran and bring back, I suppose, Rez Pahlavi, the son of the former Shah, bring back the monarchy, bring back a puppet regime. I think that's the optimal the idea of how this should go, and I suppose that now they are intent on leaving over some parts of the Iranian power structures that they believe can then facilitate that kind of transition. I think this is very much misguided. I don't think that this will work, but at least for now, that seems to be the strategy. Also, of course, threatening these people, right? Killing Khamenei and then threatening that this is what will happen to all of you if you don't play along with my demands. This is also what happened in Venezuela. It was the same tactic to attack the head and take out actually Mr. Maduro as a show of force, and then threaten Delcy Rodriguez and everybody else in what remained of the government that this and even a worse fate would await them if they did not bow to the superior power of the United States. So I think what is crystallizing now is that the US wants to do something similar with Iran, but not by taking out Khamenei, but by killing him. And this seems to have succeeded. We are reading at the moment also that there are celebrations in the streets. Here, there's a little video. A party in Toronto as Iranians celebrate the end of Khamenei, and I can believe that this is very much true. I was in not in Toronto, but in Vancouver in January, and I've seen a relatively large protest with a lot of Iranians who protested the Iranian leadership and Khamenei, and actually called for this. They called for bombing of Iran. Iranians calling for the bombing of Iran, and these people must be pretty happy right now. I would like to add at this point, though, that this is also nothing that we should be surprised at. Just think of the scenes in the streets of the United States if tomorrow we woke up to the news that Donald Trump had died. I am pretty sure you would find people who would celebrate that fact very much. I mean, the celebration of the end of somebody's reign is nothing new, and is nothing special and unique to Iran. It is something that is that any kind of country has. There are people who support a government, and there's people who very much oppose it, and there will be people, especially these kind of strong man leaders, have very strong supporters and very strong opponents, and there would be celebrations in the streets if Macron. If tomorrow Macron didn't wake up, there would be celebrations in France in certain circles. In other circles, there would be a lot of mourning. You would have this in quite a lot of places around the world. So yes, the part of the Iranian government, the part of the Iranian society that was very much opposed to the theocratic leadership, they are the ones who are now happy at this, and the people who are in who were in support, they are mourning. There is these scenes as well, like in another post. The there are pictures of where was that? I think somewhere over here. Yeah. Al Jazeera is reporting also a tweet from Press TV that there are people in the streets in Tehran grieving the death, the killing of Khamenei. Of course, this is exactly what you would expect, right? You have both these sides within Iranian society. So the fact that people are celebrating, or the fact that people are mourning, are not giving us any kind of indication about what is truly going on within the state of Iran. So, but I must say the fact that Iran was attacked within the circles of my friends who are very critical of Iran's theocratic leadership, it's not taken well. This is not something that most Iranians like and appreciate, that they're being bombed. And the next the actual other arms of Iran's political setup, especially the military, seem anything but defeated at the moment. They are continuing to mount this resistance, and also within the diplomatic realm, Iran has, of course, called for a meeting of the Security Council, and is condemning very much the actions taken against it. Um, the Israel is also still under attack. The the news is though that there's a news blockage. Actually, there's as with the 12-day war, Israel prepared itself now in a way that it tries to make sure that only certain types of information can get out, and that the scope of the destruction that's now being wrought on Israel cannot be freely and openly broadcasted. It is. It looks very much like a repeat of last June, but on a much larger level. Also because the Iran is now properly attacking, of course, the U.S. bases in the region. So far, I haven't found news about U.S. servicemen and women being killed in the region, but that doesn't mean anything. The what currently the news environment, the fog of war is very much upon us, and the casualty rates are not being openly broadcasted on either side. Something that was broadcasted is that yesterday in Iran, at least one school came under fire from the Israeli side, and more than 50 girls have been reportedly killed in those strikes, likely even more. Iran's One of Iran's diplomats is actually talking of several hundred Iranians that already died, civilians that died, and this is also no surprise because we know that the Western alliance of Israel, the United States, is implementing this war very much as they have been implementing wars always, which is without a disregard for civilian lives, right? With the intent even to kill civilians in order to pressure the other side into their demands. We have seen how Israel has been implementing its war in Gaza, the genocide in Gaza, where the terrorization and the mass murder of civilians is very much part and parcel of the entire plan. Also, of course, doing all of this kind of death and destruction while blaming the military forces of the other side for every single death that they themselves inflict upon the civilian population. The whole story of Hamas hiding in tunnels, Hamas hiding in every school, and therefore Israel having to bomb them is of course part of this. It goes the same narrative continues right straight into this war, where now also the United States is taking over this rhetoric that the death is at the hands of the Iranian regime, as they call them. It is a very bleak moment, and it's quite tragic. But again, the death of Ayatollah Khamenei is not, in my view, going to end the war. Not at all. It is, if anything, just going to lead to the younger guard now coming to the fore. And if those are killed, then the next rank and the next rank will probably come out. The question really is whether the United States can manage with the limited assets it has. It has a great number of assets in the region, but also those are finite. The question is whether, with the missile capacities that it has, if it can actually destroy the missile capability of Iran and lead to this kind of political turmoil, or the political avalanche, which would then sweep away, even the other parts of the political leadership, whether that is achievable or not. In the discussion I had with Chas Freeman, he very much doubted that this will be the case, because just so far, pure air war, pure raiding air raids, be it with missiles or be it with airplanes of another country, of an enemy nation, has just no track record of leading to regime change. It would be really one of the very first times that this succeeds without boots on the ground. It didn't work in the Second World War. It didn't work in the Vietnam War. It didn't work in the It didn't even work with Gaza. I mean, Hamas is still around in Gaza. It didn't work with Yemen. The Houthis are still very much in charge of their plot of Yemen, and the so if this now worked with Iran, it would be a very huge surprise. Question again: how much of the military capacity of Iran can the United States degrade with this, and how much of the military industrial base can the United States degrade before it itself runs out of its military industrial base? Something Ambassador Chess Freeman also pointed out: the ability of the US to replenish its stockpile is very much impeded at the moment, and this war will only lead to an even further like depletion of a U.S. Military stockpile of these of missiles, which are way too expensive. And I've had several guests on my show in the past which keep saying that the U.S. Is actually at the moment caught in a crunch because the capitalist system it has been leading over the past 30 years to an utter inflation, a complete inflation of the prices, of the price tag of the US weaponry. With this, of course, the military industrial complex is making a lot and a lot of money, but on the other hand, it has been producing less and less weapons, which for once is of course a good thing, that this kind of kleptocratic corruption of the unfeathered capitalism is now leading to production problems, especially when compared to how the Russian system or the Chinese system, for instance, can churn out military capacity. But the United States, of course, can still produce these things, but not as fast as they are shooting them now at the Iranians. The question is, can the Iranians continue producing their weaponry, and can they use what they have in stock, what they stockpiled in this war of attrition against the US and Israel? If within the next 3 to 5 days the Iranian government and the government structure itself falters the way that the US seems to plan that this should go, well, then the US and Israel basically win. But if not, if this war goes into the second week, into the third week, into another month, well, then as time passes, the chances are that all of the dynamic of the war, the fortune of the war actually will shift toward Iran as the U.S. depletes its entire Middle Eastern arsenal. And then what will happen once the firing rate from the United States side has to decrease because of that? That will be anyone's guess. What, for instance, are the Gulf states going to do, which are now under attack from Iran? Or the U.S. bases in those Gulf states are under attack from Iran. I think Iran actually put out a statement that it is not firing against the Gulf states themselves, but against the U.S. bases, against the military installations, which is also something that is pretty clear. I mean, what will these states do once this whole thing is over and they realize, as they must have realized by now, that the military assets of the United States are a bigger threat to their internal security rather than a help? And let me just show you one thing that is quite interesting. A video that I also showed in that live stream earlier from a strike against a U.S. military base in, I think this is Bahrain. Let me see if I can find it here. Iranian missile attack on Qatar. So this is an attack on Qatar, and you can see or on a U.S. installation, apparently a radio a radar station. And I will play this once again with sound, okay, so that you can hear what people are saying. And although even if you cannot understand it, just listen to the end. Listen to the end of the video. What you can hear here. Let's see. مسيرة يا شباب، مسيرة مسيرة، اضرب 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 اضرب. These are people in Qatar, Qataris or workers or whoever filmed this, who are then cheering once this drone, this Iranian drone, actually hits the U.S. Radar installation. So this is basically the opposite of this is exactly the thing that I think the US believes what Iranians will do once their missiles hit Iranian uh, military installations. That the Iranians will go like, yay, yay, finally the US is bombing our military. Finally, we can get freedom. I mean, this is exactly that in reverse. The Qataris who or somebody in Qatar um, then cheering on the destruction of US of some US facility in Qatar. This is really rather interesting to me. So the Ambassador Chess Freeman also said that, of course, in the general population, in Qatar and in the Gulf monarchies, the general population doesn't support the United States. They don't support the genocide in Gaza. On the contrary, just like in Egypt, people are very much against what the Israel is doing, the violence that they're implementing. But it is, of course, the leadership in those places that is very docile and collaboratist with the U.S. government. So whether that will continue, though, now that it is clear that it makes their states even more of a target, especially if this war should end or should take a break in an inconclusive way, I really wonder if this is not going to lead to a complete rethinking of whether or not these lease agreements and base agreements should be renewed. Of course, if the United States ends up winning big and Donald Trump next week is going to parade through Tehran, waving to the people who will wave U.S. flags at him, well, then that will be a different story. But if that doesn't happen, if the assessment that Iran wants internally a regime change, right, and that the U.S. is just a helping hand in implementing this a new Iranian revolution. If that assessment is wrong, which I believe it is, I cannot see that happening. I might be wrong, but we'll see. If this assessment, though, of the United States is wrong, then with every week that this war continues, the balance of forces, in my view, will shift toward Iran. So really, the Ayatollah Khamenei is dead. The Islamic Republic of Iran is very much alive at this moment. The Americans are betting that they can kill the Islamic Republic and replace it, maybe with the old monarchy. That still seems to be right now the goal. Probably the United States is using probably the connections it still has to the Iranian diplomats in order to threaten them. Probably threaten to kill the president. Pashkinyan, and maybe the other leaders in the cabinet, maybe threatened the elected the elected leaders in the parliament of Iran, just threaten the next level and try to beat them into obedience. And if they don't do so, then maybe kill even more of them. The one thing the US has now proven is that it can do that. Congratulations, United States. You are able at will to kill any leader in the world. You tried, well, this is another question, though. They tried to do that with Vladimir Putin. They tried to attack his private residence. They seem to have failed there. It seems that Russia is able to shoot down incoming projectiles over its soil. So the Iranians were now obviously are not able to do this. They're not able to hide their leadership in a bunker deep enough that could not be penetrated by the bombs that the United States has. My Chinese friends, by the way, are telling me that China is looking at this very carefully, and that Chinese media is simply portraying what is happening without without a value judgment, good or bad on it, more of a matter of fact. And that what they're learning is that, well, what you need to have in this day and age is, of course, naturally, the the military capability to defend yourself from this type of aggression and to shoot down these projectiles. This is something that Iran didn't have, and is something, by the way, which also Israel is questionable how much they will have. The fact that the supreme leader of Iran has been killed will, of course, naturally now lead to the rest of the leadership thinking about how to retaliate against this. So Benjamin Netanyahu really better should be in a very deep place or far away from Israel. There are some rumors that he might even have left the country. I don't think that's true. I mean, that would be quite something for a leader to leave at this point in time. But he better be in a very secure location, because by now the biggest target will probably be on his head from the Iranians. This is something that they didn't try to do so far, right? The Iranians, even in the 12-day war, have been very deliberate in their strikes in order to send very clear signals to Israel. But now it is clear that this is a war is an existential war for the Iranians about how to survive. So, as I said yesterday, the calculation now must be how to strike back at both the United States and Israel without inviting nuclear strikes. But anything short of that, including probably directly firing back at at Israel's political leadership, is most likely on the cards. So Israel will also be in a very difficult position. We discussed earlier in the stream with Jas Freeman whether or not this might mean that Iran might have now an incentive to try to assassinate Donald Trump. I mean, there is this rumor, there's this well, ridiculous kind of assertion that the Iranians had tried to kill Mr. Trump back in the past when he was running for president. I don't think that was true at all. That is very much a fabricated rumor. But now that Ayatollah Khamenei has been killed, I think now Iran has a serious incentive to try to kill Donald Trump, because if you can do that, or if you can attempt at doing it, then you would send a very strong signal to the United States that this is not a case where impunity reigns. The biggest problem, of course, that Iran has is that if they cannot strike back at the US and Israel in a way that it actually hurts these two, then, well, the people who ordered these strikes will understand one thing, which is that if they push the button, then the others die, and they live. They're gonna have breakfast the next morning, and they're gonna go into the office, and everything will be normal. So impunity will, of course, lead to exactly what Israel is doing in Gaza. It leads to genocide. It leads to mass murder. So the Iranians must be calculating now how to respond to this largest of all kinds of attacks on their political system, including on the political system of the other one. If the conflict was boiling on a level lower, which it was last June, then both of these regimes would try not to fire directly at each other, right? Because again, if you cross that threshold, if you cross that red line, if you assassinate the leaders of the other one, then you must not be surprised if what remains will try to assassinate your leadership. And usually leaderships in both countries or in both belligerent parties will try to avoid this unless they are certain that the other one cannot kill them anymore, right? As soon as you think you have so much superiority that the other one cannot physically possibly get to you, then you will go after them. You will try to kill the leadership. So the United States seems to be pretty certain that they can inflict on Iran any kind of damage, including on the top leadership, without suffering reciprocal damage. Damage to the soldiers in the region. Donald Trump made this clear in his speech. People might die. U.S. servicemen and women might die, but that's what happens in war. That's literally what he said. So he literally told us he's willing that the soldiers of the United States will die, and he expects that is a likely outcome. But he obviously is of the opinion that he himself will live, that the Iranians will not be able to get back at him or at his family or at his entourage in any way, shape, or form that would make him think twice about these acts, right? So, and the same for the Israelis. I think they are confident that their leadership, that Netanyahu, that the people who ordered and plotted this illegal war of aggression against Iran, that they will be safe. Now, whether or not this is going to be the case, we will see. It just must emphasize again the incentive of Iran. And this is not me condoning it. I'm just saying the incentive of Iran is now going to be to hit back at the political leadership in the US and in Israel. So this is a very, very great escalation, and it is a very great gamble on the side of the United States, especially of Donald Trump, that this will work. We don't know. I mean, the fog of war again is very thick at the moment. It is very much possible that Iran is in utter disarray and maybe disintegrating in a couple of days. Possible. Honestly, I don't think so. I don't think this it's going to be that easy, and that it is going to be as easy with Iran as it was for Israel to deal with Hezbollah. But the and the killing of Mr. Nasrallah, and then basically forcing the Lebanese, forcing Hezbollah into stopping shooting at Israel, while Israel continues shooting at them. But this is also again, this is one thing that everybody in the region now understands. If Iran agreed to stop firing projectiles, firing at the US and Israel, then Israel would still continue firing at them. It is utterly clear, because that's what they've been doing. That's what they're doing in Gaza. The ceasefire is a ceasefire only on the side of Hamas, right? The Israelis are continuously still killing almost on a daily basis people in Gaza with their attacks, because they're not done with their ethnic cleansing project yet. They keep killing people in Lebanon at will, again, because also they're not done with the subjugation of the Lebanese the way that they want it. The same with Syria, and the same is going to befall on Iran. So it is clear that from the strategic incentive, Iran is now utterly incentivized on all the next levels of government to continue this war, and to make this a air war, a missile war of attrition against the other side, until they are forced into stopping everything for good. It is a very, very unhappy situation. This is a terrible outcome, and it is a terrible crime. And this is one of the reasons why the UN Charter forbids all sorts of wars, and the application of force in international relations. It is quite again, just mind-boggling to me that the Europeans stand behind this. That we have these pictures coming out of Europe, of leaders actually saying, I don't know if I have it here, I don't, but the Europeans already said, this, that they condemn Iran's attacks on the Middle Eastern region. This is utterly ridiculous, of course, but what else were we to expect from the Europeans? They are a joke at this point. We said so in the live stream earlier. They are the satellites of the United States. They do not. I mean, there is no independent European foreign policy. Although I must say, and I just want to point this out, just because I'm Swiss, and this is one of the few moments when I'm actually grateful for this. The Switzerland, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, put out a statement. I have it here in German, where it says Switzerland is deeply worried about today's attacks by the United States and Israel against Iran. They actually said so. And that Switzerland demands the unimpeded adherence to international law, including the Charter of the United Nations and humanitarian law, humanitarian international law. This surprised me. Switzerland is one of the the foreign ministry put this out, condemning, zutiefst besorgt. So they are deeply worried about today's attacks. They use the word attack by the United States and Israel against Iran. So the rest of the, especially of the EU, Europeans, and the UK, of course, are pretty much condoning what happened, and are condemning Iran for being such a brutal regime, and yada yada yada, and so on and so forth. But this is just another one of these moments where the Europeans are making themselves absolutely impossible. and the solution to this conflict now will certainly not go through Europe. It will be again going through the militaries. I don't expect this war to last for only 12 days. As long as the Iranian political structure doesn't collapse the way the United States foresees it. If it doesn't collapse, then this war will probably go on for a pretty long time. The Iranians made it clear that they're gearing up for that. The strategy will be to wear the United States down, to wear its allies down. The fact also that there was no attack yet on Saudi Arabia seems to indicate that Iran is calculating politically about how to approach its entire region, and that the answer now of Iran is again a calculated one that probably seeks to now divide the regional alliance that the United States has with these powers. The Strait of Hormuz is reportedly now being closed by Iran. This will have a very large impact on global trade. Whether they can keep this closure. Whether they can keep that up, or whether the United States will actually try to force them to stop the closure and open the strait, is anyone's guess. Whether the Iranians will try to just sink a couple of boats in the strait and make it impossible for other boats to go through might be a strategy. I don't know about this, but it seems that the Iranians again are doing still a calculated answer, a calculated approach toward toward this attack, and there we should probably expect a calculated answer also on the assassination of Ayatollah Khamenei. Mr. Netanyahu again will probably, I mean, if he is not worried about this, then that will probably only increase the likelihood of some attempt at his life to actually succeed. Because by now, again, and I don't condone that. I do not condone any of the killing that is happening. I do not say that that is a good thing. I'm just trying to portray what the military strategic calculations now must be in Iran for them to somehow get back escalation dominance and to get to wrestle back the upper hand in this long war. Which, by the way, just to make that point, the Iran fought 8 years of war back in the 1980s against Iraq. Iran is not a stranger to the logic of prolonged warfare. Iran is also has been under sanctions now for decades. It is very much aware of the how a society runs and works or doesn't work during these heightened moments of pressure. And I think that's what I wanted to convey to you now. There will be another update in a couple of hours with Stas Krapivnik about about Russia's from the view from Russia and Russia's likely involvement in this entire affair. Stay tuned for that, and I thank you for your attention.